Hey, gang! Welcome to another episode of Try Not to Curse. My friend Jerry is back with us, and I promise you this time we're seriously going to have a conversation about what he does. You just said you've got some a lingering cold going on. Producer Mike is currently sick right now. I just had to reschedule with another guest who is sick. The weather is absolute shit all week long. The very first thing I want to say to you, and you and I have some voice lessons coming up. I'm very excited about.
Yay!
One of the questions that I was going to ask you once we sat down for these voice lessons is I have year-round allergies and all of my shit is ear, nose, and throat. So what's the best remedy for you? Or at least, is it just tea? Is it rest? What is the best thing when you're a person like me who's like constantly phlegmy and nasally and congested?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'll say I think that means that you're officially a singer because, like, every
Oh,
singer is afflicted with all of those things. It's like a joke, right?
I'll
Where it's
take
like,
that.
oh, I couldn't just live a life without the ear, nose, and throat problems and be a singer. Like, why would that be the case? Um, it sounds sort of trite, I guess, but it's really about like staying hydrated and rested. Like, that is the
Hmm.
best thing you can do for like, those are things you can't make up for quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're either ahead of it or you're behind it. You're never, you're never like able to just go like, oh, I need to hydrate or I need to rest, and you take a nap or have one good night's sleep and things get fixed.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
there obviously everybody's got their like people have their different lozenges and teas and remedies and that kind of thing. But the majority of all of it for me is like, if I'm rested and if I'm like drinking plenty of water regularly, then I
Yeah.
have infinitely less issues. Which I having all of these sort of like coughing and the nasal things and the allergies the last month or so has kind of like got me back on my like making sure I'm drinking a ton of water every day. So it's been a
Yeah.
good reminder to me to be like, practice what you preach over here because like I'm struggling.
Well, that's good. I hope you're listening, Joanne, because my mom really struggles with drinking water, and I'm always giving her shit about it. So stay hydrated, girl, for those pipes. But like JLo, I'm almost positive she has it written into her contracts that she has to have 8 hours of sleep every single day. Like she has made this statement in interviews before. So that makes a lot of sense. Like hydration and rest, absolutely.
I also don't rest. I don't sleep well. So like that's always like a constant thing for me where I'm just like
That's why I started
I
edibles, man.
yeah, the problem is that if I do, then like I will get up in the morning when my alarm goes off, but like my body doesn't get all the way up and it may take me a couple
Oh,
hours. So I have to like if I'm going to do an edible, I have to do it at like 6 p.m.
oh,
so that I
geez.
can live to tell about it the next day.
Well, maybe not then. Maybe that's not the answer for you. We'll
No,
have to
it's a
figure
great
something.
answer on a Friday night though, when I usually
There
don't
you
have
go.
to be up early on Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we didn't really get into the nitty gritty about technique and things like that. Also for me, I know again when we sit down, for me, breathing is something that I really have to work on. Um, I feel like my vocals are decent. I think I'm a tenor, but I really
I'm going to
don't
stop you
know.
there.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I'm going to stop you there because I told Joanne I was like I cannot wait to work with her because she was trying to be slick and we watched the Beyonce concert film together and the whole time I'm sitting there for the 3 hours or whatever it was, I'm like, okay, she can
Stop.
sing.
Stop.
So you've already
Stop.
been found out.
That's exciting. Well, I will say I know where what I'm strongest with. Like I know that range. Like I know, but I can go kind of low. I can do some Desiree in there. I cannot do crazy high. Like a lot of like Taylor Swift stuff I can't hit the way she hits it. Um but so when people are interested in singing, are interested in maybe voice lessons or maybe just going out to karaoke, that kind of thing, what should they be considering when they're looking to sing in front of others or picking a song?
I mean, to be very honest with you, I think there's so many entry points with this kind of thing, and it's easy for people to get on these like sort of bougie hierarchical standpoints with this, right? With like, oh, you should
Hmm.
only do this, or you should only like whatever's proper. I think what you should most focus on when you sing is shit you like to sing.
Hmm. Yeah,
Like I remember years ago, I was reading a book. It was Twilight,
there you are.
and I love vampire everything.
Yes,
And
sir.
I'm reading this book, and 50 pages in, I'm like, I hate this. Like not glittery skin, not like no, this is not like the Anne Rice. Like I mean, I'm from Louisiana, so like we're obsessed with Anne
Mm,
Rice and
sure.
like Vampire Lestat and Interview with the Vampire and like Queen of the Damned and all of that. So I was so engulfed in that like when I'm reading this, I'm like, I hate this book. And I said to a very long time family friend who was working as a literacy specialist in the school that I was working in Louisiana, and she goes, "Stop reading it." And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like,
Yeah.
just stop reading the book. And I'm like, I've already read 50 pages. She goes, okay. If you don't
Right.
enjoy it, stop reading it. There are too many books in the world to read books you don't like. And I think I was maybe like 25, 26. And I think that was the first time in my life where somebody gave me permission to not finish a
Yeah.
book.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing about songs. Like you should sing songs that excite you. You're using your body to do it, right?
Yeah.
So like a lot of times, like the wrong matching on a song is because it's just not the right thing for you. If you want to scream, sing, in karaoke, then go do that.
Oh my God.
If
Did
you're
you hear
enjoying
that?
it, you're relaxed, you're less tense. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
actually
yeah.
can sing better the things you enjoy singing.
Yeah. Do you think everybody's capable? Like, are there just some people that will just never sing well, that are just so tone deaf that they can't hit a note to save their life?
Of course, most people are not, but I mean that is a real thing. Um, I will say that. I think it's like anything. Like I ran a half marathon like 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Does that make me a long distance runner?
No, sir.
Absolutely not. I'm not good at it. It did not like me. I did not like it, but I did it. I completed it,
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
not going to make me like a runner, right? In the same
Yeah.
way
Or
that
an expert. Yeah.
some people have a natural gift for fill in the blank. Then you kind of start further down the pathway.
Yeah.
But like,
So
can you
as
teach someone to use the actual like body to make sounds in the way you want? 100% yes.
okay.
Some people
Okay.
will get it. You know what I'm saying? Like you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
you, certain people are just good at certain things. So like a certain level of talent,
Yeah.
it helps.
Well, have you ever had that experience, as a vocal coach, as a teacher, have you ever had someone come in and you just said, "Honey, there's nothing I can do for you."
Yes,
Oh, that's
yes,
heartbreaking.
absolutely. And it is a tough conversation. Or like, like here's the thing is that like I teach a wide variety. I have taught a wide variety of students of ages, all sorts of like backgrounds, different skill levels, and even more important, different desires with what they want to do with their music. Like
Yeah.
everybody does not have to do everything the same way with any sort of artistic pursuit. So
Yeah.
like I obviously always want to be honest with someone with like what sort of is within their realm of capability.
Well,
And I would
especially if they're paying you for a service, right? Like, honey, save your
correct. Like
money.
I want to know your goal. If your goal is to be a professional singer and you're telling me this and then like everything you do does not match the profile of someone who can sing professionally, then I'm not going to like gash you and tell you that, oh, you should do that. Like, I don't need your
Yeah.
money for that. Like I'm not, like I don't. But there are a
Yeah.
lot of people who just enjoy singing. They just enjoy
Mm.
playing piano. Like they want to make music. And that to me is as valid as anybody who's like, I want to, make a career out of it.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure on the other end of it, you've probably encountered people that have great and tremendous talent and they're not doing anything with it. And you're sitting there like, "Hi, like please, like go share this gift." And, have you ever experienced something like that where somebody was just like, it's just a hobby," or no?
Uh, yeah. I just think that there are so many levels and ways that people interact with creating anything. Somebody, I've been asked a lot over the years of like, do you wish you had like pursued a career in just performing?
Mm.
And the answer for me is like, no, I don't. I don't wish that I would have done anything different than what I've done.
Yeah.
Um, because I always loved performing and I loved teaching equally. And I wanted to figure out some sort of balance in that, right? But I think it's this like underdeveloped or juvenile way of thinking about what it is to be successful at making music or singing or doing anything creative. Like there are so many ways to be successful. There's so many ways
Yeah.
to make a living doing the same thing. We are
Yeah.
long past like our days where like people would, I mean, like you remember like signing up for like street teams and shit like that, like through the mail for your favorite artist, the band, and you'd get the little kit and whatever, like, you know, or you'd like wait until the CD was released on Tuesdays and go to the store and get it. You know, like we
Yeah.
don't live in that world where everybody's just trying to get an opportunity that someone grants them. Like,
Yeah.
hello, you're living proof of this. You wanted to create a podcast and you just made it happen. You weren't sitting around waiting on someone to like say, yes, you can do this. You're like, I'm going to
Yeah.
gather a team and I'm going to create a thing. And you did that. We can do that now. So like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think for me, it was very much like, like your friend giving you permission to not read the book. Like I had been hemming and hawing about the podcast for a long time. And I was letting like my ignorance about the system, the data side of it, like the admin side of it, what programs to use, what microphones to get, all the equipment was so overwhelming that finally, I was talking with someone about it and they said, just fuck around and find out. And I've talked about this before on the show, but so it's one of those, like, sometimes you do not need permission, but you need someone just to kind of like back you up and just say, okay, well, so what's going to happen? What's going to
like,
happen?
but like I think the internet and social media has changed that so drastically where like
Yeah.
everybody self produces
Yeah.
every
Well,
aspect of their life. Like where it's like,
yeah.
you just don't have to wait for somebody. It's not like we don't live in a world where it's like you go to an audition or you send in your demo and somebody hears it. Like nobody's actually even interested in that kind of thing. What people are interested in is like, are you working? Are you working
Yeah.
despite the support of a record label or distribution or a manager or, like you go down the list, like if you can do that in spite of not having all of those supports,
Yeah.
then you're an easy sell from a business perspective. And the other
Well,
thing,
yeah.
don't get me started on this now because I'll talk all day about it. Like we have to also divorce our thinking from this idea that popular success or commercial success equals excellence.
Mm.
Like I
I
like
was just talking with Elena about that. Yep, absolutely.
I was talking to my dad. He was very upset for like it really sort of pissed him off what Jay-Z said at the Grammys when he got his humanitarian award or whatever that award
Mm.
was. And my dad was like, he just seemed so like ungrateful and rude to the opportunity. I'm like, I don't disagree fully with that. I think I understand what he was trying to say. I think he went about it a weird way.
Right. Yeah.
But even he was equating like Beyonce should have won all of these things because she's the most Grammy award winning artist of all time. And she is like our queen. Okay, yes, of course. But like, there were also other great albums the years
Right.
she was up for.
That's
So
just
like,
not the way the world works. Yeah.
correct. And like, if it was all about commercial success, then like a lot of people who win those awards would never get those awards because they're
Yeah.
not commercially successful.
Yeah. Well,
Right?
and
So
I will say,
it's conflated.
yeah. Yeah. I will say as toxic as the internet can be, it does, like, for people like myself, like we've had this conversation, like, not that I don't necessarily have stage fright, but I don't have the confidence to sing in front of others. Like I've never done karaoke. If I were to sing it, it would be with a group,
Period.
like I did chorus at church and that kind of thing.
But
But
like,
the
listen,
internet,
you have to know that karaoke is the most daunting anything singing that there is. Genuinely. Like singers don't like karaoke.
okay,
Because
sure.
it's like you feel like you can't, especially if you know how to sing. So if you go to sing a karaoke song in that context, if you do too well, then it's like, oh, okay, really?
Showing off, yeah.
Yeah. And if you do
Yeah.
too badly, it's like, oh my God, what am I? It's like, it's such an impossible thing to be good at.
Yeah,
So, like, because like
that's
you
fair.
can't be too good, you can't be too bad. You got to be just tipsy enough. You
Yeah.
got to like it's you
But
can't win in
yeah,
karaoke. So
but
we
that's why
can't
I
let
like
that
the internet.
determine.
That's fair. But that's why I like the internet because I feel like now I could just post audio. If I hold on to yell at
Yeah,
my cat, if it doesn't, I don't have to like, well, and that's also why I like this podcast too. Like, not that I necessarily have a problem being on camera, but all of my guests do. None of my guests certainly want to be on camera. So that's the nice thing about the internet is you don't have to give up. You can be, you can still have autonomy and you can still be mysterious and but you can still showcase your talent and get a following that way. I mean, look at Billie Eilish. Like she just put some stuff on SoundCloud and now she's one of,
I mean,
you
Lil
know,
Nas
it's
X,
insane.
same
Yeah,
story. Like,
right. Right.
other than being talented, and I will not suffer people that say that he's not, because I think he's one of the most innovative people that is doing what he does. But like his whole career was built on his social media prowess.
Right. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
put stuff out there, and then like next thing you know, like I mean, he tells the story of, like he's literally making Old Town Road in his bedroom, and then
Yeah.
months later, it's like the biggest thing. I mean, it was like number one. It doesn't hold the record
Yeah.
still. Like number one, the most consecutive weeks it beat Mariah Carey or something. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but like that, he just put like a kid making music in his bedroom and had an
Yeah.
idea, put it on Twitter.
Yeah, and that's so ever since really doing like even before doing the podcast, like I'm really good about gassing people up, but I've always said that it's like if you want to do it and you have a passion for it, then fucking do it. Like I'm not going to yuck your yum. I'm going to support you in any way that I can, because
And
that's all anybody asks for is just the littlest bit of support and
correct, and that's
encouragement,
the energy that, but like when it comes to singing, it's that it's like you have to want to do it. You have to want to
Yeah.
do it. And if it's
Yeah.
like it's all a chore, then like it's like everything else. It's sweeping the
Yeah.
floor. Like you look at it and you're like, oh, I probably should sweep the floor, but you're like, I'm not gonna grab the broom. Like I'm not doing that right now. And so your
Yeah.
floor just doesn't get swept. So like, you have to want to sing, and it's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard. It's nerve-wracking. I was working with a student the other day, and I was like, you have to stop thinking that your nerves are going to mysteriously disappear. They've not
Oh, for
disappeared
sure.
yet.
Yeah.
Instead, it's like, what are you going to do with that nervous energy? What are you going to do with that feeling of absolute doom and death right before you
Yeah.
start your song? Because
Yeah.
it's going to be there forever. Like, it's such a hard, exposing thing to do.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to tell you right now, just don't look at me when we have our voice lessons. Please don't look at me. And I'm not going to look at you.
I'm
I don't
definitely going to look
understand.
at you. We're
I
going to
don't
get over
understand
it.
people that do that make like direct eye contact while they're singing. Like, stop it. Like, please be more awkward for this in this situation. I've been rewatching the British baking show and like Prue Leith will literally make eye contact with the baker while she's biting into their food. And I can't handle that. Like, please just eat my petit four. Don't stare at me while you're getting a mouthful. Like, come on. I can't. I can't handle it. Like you and I, like there might need to be a wall separating us or something. That's my
Oh my
biggest thing
God.
is like,
Like,
don't
oh,
look at
what was that
me.
show? What was that show? Oh, like in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s,
Like Match Game or
Love
whatever. Yeah.
Connection.
Oh
Love
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Connection. Did they do that thing where like you couldn't see them, or you'd just like
Right.
ask questions and they'd be on the other
Yeah.
side of the curtain?
Yeah. I
That's
used to
us,
have
but like Love
yeah.
Connection singing version.
Yeah. I think only like maybe 10 people at most have ever heard me sing. And I used to have an ex that would purposely like turn the radio down like while I was singing along and it pissed me. I would stop. I would just stop. I was like, stop doing that. Drives me nuts. But it's just, I recognize that it's an insecurity, but it's one of those like, it's because I care about it and because I want to do well the whole time. Like there are things at work that I do that I know that I'm really fucking good at. So I want to do them all the time. So when I'm singing, I want to be good all the time, but sometimes you hit a sour note or you get dust in your throat or you're having an allergy flare up, whatever. So it's like I enjoy singing, but you don't need to hear the flaws that I've got
Okay,
going on.
so
So like,
so that's interesting. It's like I feel like we're going to have our first lesson now. Um, the what you said is very real, and I feel
yeah,
it deeply. I think we spend too much energy with any kind of like artistic endeavor pursuing what we think other people will perceive as right
Mm.
or good rather than
Hmm.
doing what's like honest and like connected, if that makes any
Mm.
sense at all.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
because if you're like, I always say this, like I've gotten sort of in trouble in certain circles where they were like, well, yeah, actually, no, that's not how it's properly done. And I'm like, I actually don't care about what's properly done. Like, yes, technique is important. Yes, you should learn how to use your instrument in a healthy way. But like for me, like let me take an example. Like I have this 16-year-old kid that I am working with right now. He lives in Louisiana. It's like a nephew of a friend and slash sort of former colleague of mine. And she's like, my nephew like really loves singing. He's like got this band that he sings with his high school friends, and I think he's probably got some talent, but like he doesn't know what to do with his voice. And I
Mm. Yeah,
like they identified that he didn't know what to do with his voice. Now, this kid is like singing like rock stuff.
yeah.
It's easy to go, oh, like rock stuff and like why would you work with me who I don't have like a rock voice. I don't have whatever. And I'm like, what you have to keep in mind is that the pursuit or the study of singing and the voice is about having access to the sounds you want to have access to. It's about knowing how to use your voice in the way that you want to use your voice. Me telling
Mm.
you don't do this, don't do that is silly. Rather, I want you to understand what you're doing to get the sound that you're getting and what consequences may arise because of that.
Sure.
Growling and belting and sort of singing and that shouty kind of thing is not an inherently bad thing. It does get tricky if you're doing that a lot of the time because you're not going to be
Yeah.
able to tell about what you're trying to do.
Well, and proper technique is so important, right? Like I mentioned, I need to work on breathing. So
Well,
I know, Chester Bennington from Lincoln Park. There have been lessons taught about the way he does that guttural screaming and growling, and so many music instructors will tell you he's doing it the right way. He's using his diaphragm. He's using his breath to make those noises without hurting himself or damaging his vocal cords. So that's where someone like you comes in, because you're like, it's not that I'm telling you you're wrong. I'm just telling you you need to change up the technique.
well, right there, like change it up, like learn what you're doing, right? Like learn
Mm.
how you're making the sound you're making and understand what that takes out of you.
Mm.
Like it's like I don't think it's sound. Like there can't be a hierarchy to sound. Sound is like to like I mean think about like those screamo bands and things that people
Yeah.
do that for whole careers and they never ever ever lose their voice. I wish that was the case for me. I can't do it.
Yeah, me too.
I can withstand a good bit of sort of vocal abuse and live to tell about it. But
Yeah.
like I can't do what they do. And I'm just always thinking like for me, there is no hierarchy, but if there's like a sort of pathway for it, technique exists and we deal with technique and develop technique to serve artistry. It's never the same in reverse, ever.
Mm.
The
Okay.
point is to create art. It's not to create technically accurate anything.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's a hard thing because you want to be technically accurate because we also understand that we like the way that sounds when people
Well,
are.
well, so in that vein, is perfect pitch, is that something that you're born with? Can that be taught? Because I hear, like Charlie Puth has perfect pitch. Like I, it just seems like something that I don't,
I
is that
don't.
achievable through, you know what I
I,
mean?
I think. I mean, I don't think you can necessarily just like straight up teach that from
Yeah.
nothing. Um,
Because like I myself, like I know when a note is off. You know what I mean? Like my way of singing, my mom sings the way she wants to sing. She sings a song the way it sounds coming out. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it. She sings it her way.
yeah.
Me, I very much try to match vocals when I'm singing along with something. So I know when I'm off, when I can't hit a note, but I know I can hear it in other people as well. But I know for a fact I don't have
Yeah,
perfect pitch.
but like when you say something like that to me, like I wouldn't call that even like in the realm of perfect pitch or not.
No,
What
yeah.
you're talking about is more like you understand a tonal center, and if someone's singing
Mm,
sharp or flat or whatever,
right.
like
Well,
that, that's a
then maybe
keen
the
ear.
question, yeah. Well, then maybe the question is, what's the value of having perfect pitch? Like, why is it always such a big deal when somebody
I
has
don't
that?
think it's a value. It's like a freak thing that everybody's like, oh
Okay.
my God, you can
They're
do
just
that.
they're
I
yeah.
will tell you, so like whenever people talk about perfect pitch, I think of it like this. Like if I said la, if you have perfect pitch, you know exactly what note that is, and you can say, oh, that's
Okay.
whatever. Like and
Yeah.
get it right every single.
And that's what Charlie Puth does. That's his party trick. Yeah.
I when I was in undergrad, I had these two amazing music teacher mentors, these cooperating teachers that let me do my student teaching in their programs. Um, Really great. There's a great middle school program that I did it, and then I did this big high school. It's like one of the like best programs in Oklahoma City and high school. She had a lot of people come to. James Marsden was in her show choir and
Ooh.
program. She had a lot of kids go on to do amazing things. She had a really like a beautiful, beautiful program. And I just kind of happened to be like super lucky in that it was her youngest child, her youngest daughter's senior year. She went to that high school. She was in her show choir. This was the end of the school year. So it was the very tail end of the school year. And so, like, she kind of wanted to be a mom in a lot of ways and, like, enjoy the last moments of her last kid's high school career and the concert and all of those things. And so when she was tough as nails, I mean, tough as nails with me in the beginning.
Yeah.
And, and, she just kind of like pushed. She was like, okay, if you think you can do it, try it. That's literally what she said to me. And I'm like, do what? And she goes, the music's on the piano. They'll be in about 45 seconds. And I go to the piano and I'm like, oh shit, I don't know that. I
Mm.
don't like this is too. And she goes, well, you said you can play the piano. My accompanist is out today. Play it. And I was just like,
Nice.
"Ooh." And
Yeah.
somehow, by the grace of Oprah and Gail, I sight read halfway enough to get through that song, and she looked at me, and all she said was, all right, I'll let you do things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so she had this accompanist who would come in sometimes, but she also had a daughter in the program. They all kind of like raised their kids together, and they were, trying to be. It's hard to be like the teacher and the people and the mom when you're wanting to experience that. And her accompanist was this crazy gifted pianist, but had perfect pitch. And when I
Okay.
tell you, I saw her struggle more with that than anything else. Because
Mm.
if she had to, like, they had, God, this makes me sound so old. But this was like when, like, digital pianos and keyboards and things were a bit more ubiquitous in music
Mm.
classrooms, and
Yeah.
they would have the instant transpose button. So you could play in the key that you were reading, but like knock it up a half step or a whole step or a couple, whatever you wanted. And it sounded in the higher or lower key that you put it in.
Okay.
This woman literally could not do that because if she saw the music on the page, she had to play exactly what
It
was on
had
the
to
page
match. Yeah.
because like there was such dissonance in her thinking. If I
Okay.
see a C, I have to hear a C or she like had a full meltdown. So like I've actually
Okay.
seen people with perfect pitch struggle in ways that like you wouldn't expect where it's like
Yeah.
can't whereas like because I don't have perfect pitch but I am pretty decent at like changing keys if I need to. Like
Yeah.
I can do that pretty easily because I don't
Yeah.
like I'm not so locked into what I see that I can't see anything else or I can't
Yeah.
hear anything else.
Well, somebody like John Baptiste is so good at that. Like he's really
What is
good
he
at,
not good at?
I
God.
mean for real. But like he did that I don't know what special it was on, but he did that where he explained like, oh yeah, he played like Beethoven or something, but then he showed how you can turn that exact song and put a little jazzy edge to it, or and it's just some people have that talent too, which is just so incredible to me to have an ear like that as well. So I'm just fascinated by the whole thing. But like I said, you being in the business that you're in, it's interesting to me, like I'm just curious as to what can be taught, what may just be, just a
Most
gift that
things
people are
can be
inherited
taught,
with.
but again,
Yeah.
I was taught to run a half marathon.
Right.
I would
Right.
never call myself a long distance
Right.
runner. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I
Yeah.
did it. So like most people can do whatever it is that they're seeking to do with the right amount of effort. But for other people, like, if you have a natural gift with it, then you start many miles down the pathway, whereas somebody else is still at the starting line.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so what helps people, when they may have an interest in something, when they may want to try something out. Like for me, like I was in chorus in school, and then I was in chorus in church. So, and my both of my parents, like my whole family is very into music. So music was just a part of my life. I was also in orchestra. My sister was in orchestra. Um, but if somebody, just has always had an interest, but maybe not the opportunity, like where would someone start? They just go on YouTube and look up lessons, or, what advice can you give?
Yeah, I mean, I think YouTube. As a teacher right now, I'm sort of torn by YouTube.
Mm.
As a person, I spend most nights, and this goes back to my being unable to sleep. I do all the wrong things. I spend most nights on my laptop in bed, complaining about not being able to sleep, watching YouTube tutorials and videos to learn different things.
Mm.
Um, I have a student I'm working with, literally have a lesson after this with him. He's a brilliant kid that he's an athlete more than anything, but loves music. And has such a nice voice. He's in the throes of puberty, and his voice has dropped drastically, and he is very self-conscious about it. And so he's kind of shifted a bit more. We've been working on piano and singing over the last couple of years. And he's kind of shifted like to like to me it's sad because I love hearing him sing, but he's kind of shifted to only piano right now because he's so uncomfortable with
Mm.
his
Yeah.
voice. And
Yeah.
he's been doing that thing, and I think this is wonderful. So like, don't hear this as bad. It's wonderful hit for him, but it's bad for me. Where he'll go on YouTube and like do these piano tutorials of songs he likes. So
Okay.
there's this one song, but like the problem with that is that like he's really just memorizing by rote. He's seeing like a diagram of someone's hands on a piano keyboard, and he's doing exactly what he sees, which
Yeah.
that is absolutely a valid and valuable way of learning something. It's limiting though, right? And like I'm really self-conscious of like doing too much of that kind of thing, only because it doesn't teach you the why or the how with anything. It just teaches you how to do this one thing. You're replicating something that somebody else is doing. Whereas like for me, it's more like I think if you want to sing, one, like you got to do all the things we talked about, right? You have to understand technique and the body and how it works and how to make the sounds you want to make. And then all of the sort of questions about songs and lyrics and settings and characters. Like you're acting as much as you're singing when you're singing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I like to think about this more in like how you think about those things. Your mom and I have been doing like we've been doing a lot of this, and like sometimes she's like, "But I don't think about that, right?" But I'm like,
Yeah.
but she does, and it's more like if you can find a teacher that helps you not only understand the technical aspects of what you're trying to accomplish, but how to think about them.
Yeah.
That's when you
Well,
become an independent singer, an independent learner, where you don't need somebody to teach you every granular piece of the song
yeah.
or singing itself.
Well, she had told me that you said that to her one day, that she has an understanding of what she's singing. So like she understands the emotion behind the words, the
Like
tone.
in a
Yeah.
way that I am genuinely jealous
Yeah.
of. Because I have to like
Yeah.
talk myself through things a lot about like, okay, what am I doing here? And when I tell you, if she brings a song to me, it's because like she already has so deeply connected with it. And it's also why
Mm.
I genuinely love her voice. I love listening to her sing. She's one of the only students who can like, we'll be in a lesson and like, I'll be over there legit trying not to sob my guts up because the
Yeah.
way she sings is just so beautifully connected to like what
Yeah.
she's trying to tell you that I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't even care what you do right now. Just do that. Which goes back
Yeah.
to the point of like technique is to serve artistry, not the reverse. Because like
Sure.
when you do what she's able to do with the song, I'm like, well,
Yeah.
good God. And listen, and it's not just me that says that because I don't know if you watched it or even heard about it because she'd never tell you this herself.
Mm.
But the reaction, I put her last year for the music service that we
Yep. Yeah.
did. I put
Yeah.
her song last because I knew that people were going to be gutted by what she did.
Yeah.
And she sang that song, and literally the whole congregation is just like, oh.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Well,
that
yeah.
response. You could have
Yeah.
like cut the air. It was so thick of just like, what?
Yeah.
That. And then
And
somebody was
it's
like, thank God I didn't have to follow her. Like that was a thing. But it was because what she was doing was so connected to something bigger than all of us.
yeah, and it's so funny because um she doesn't realize it and she doesn't know because like I know for a fact like when she has something coming up she practices and she'll say, "Oh, I've really got to practice tonight because I've got this coming up." Like she's a bundle
So
of
prepared.
nerves and she just
So
wants to
prepared.
be prepared. Yeah. But she and yes, she is connected to it. She does have songs she likes. She does have artists that she prefers to sing, but she doesn't look in it at a sense of like showing off her talent. She looks at it in a sense of like, this is something that I really have to work on. And you know what I mean? So it's so, and I'm glad you said that because she's going to hear this, but it's
She's
not
gonna
one
be
of those
mad at me for
things
talking
like,
about this.
but she doesn't go up there being like, just wait until you see what I can do. You know what I mean? Like she doesn't
And that's
approach
the
it as like, I'm
refreshing
going to
part.
blow you people
Oh,
away, you know?
in other points in my life, like I've gotten better at this. I'm not great at it, but I've gotten better at it. But like there were points where I was like, no, 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 no. I'm a singer, sweetie. Like I'm a singer. Like I want it to be big and loud and high. And if it doesn't have a
Yeah.
bridge, fuck out of here. Like
Yeah.
I need a bridge. I want to show off. I want people to hear what I can do. And
Yeah.
then I find myself so drawn to, like you mentioned Billie Eilish. I am so drawn to the way she sings. Not because I think she's the greatest singer, but because I think she's incredibly restrained with her voice. And
Mm,
she does so deliberately. And I think it's a fascinating thing to hear a singer kind of keep everything right here so that when
yeah.
she kind of opens up, it's like, oh, and a lot of people when they hear her sing live, they're like, "Oh, I didn't realize she could actually sing." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"That's because you're not getting like all of the nuances of what she can do in the recording." But
Yeah.
like I respect people that keep it a little closer to the mouth.
Well, but she's also one of those people where she's only giving us her version. Like I don't know how to properly articulate it, but I really one of these days I really want to see her. I want to hear her cover other songs, but not in her style. You know what I mean? Like I feel like you said, like I feel like she can offer so much more vocally, but she's doing what's comfortable for her, what's familiar for her. And I'm thinking like, girl, like you need to go do some other songs.
I also
And yes,
wonder if
make it
it's
your way,
strategic.
but
Do you think it's strategic? I think it's strategic. I think
it
like
could be.
it's a smart way to go about like a phenomenally talented teenager, a young
Yeah,
girl
it
who's
could
got this
be.
thing.
Yeah.
And so like I think she's got so many layers ahead of her because one, she
Yeah.
can do it and she's not done it yet.
Yeah, exactly. I
Like
think
there,
she has so much more that she just hasn't shown us yet. And it's going to
listen,
be really
this
interesting.
is the thing about like what I genuinely am so excited over the next like 40, 50 years to see play out is that Samara can sing anything. And what people have heard her sing is jazz.
Hmm.
But she is so skilled with how she uses her voice. She can sing any genre. I mean, like legitimately can sing anything.
That's awesome.
She had this big song, the big lead song on the Shirley Chisholm movie on Netflix.
Oh,
So
excellent.
she co-wrote that with PJ Morton, but it's a pop song. It's a big anthem, like a movie anthem. And listening to that, like I think some people would hear that and be like, "Oh, that's not the same person."
Yeah.
But like,
That's
but like,
awesome.
but I love people that have kind of tricks up their sleeve like that, where like
Yeah.
you think of them as one thing, and then they do something else, and you're like, "Oh,
Well, like you shared Kelly Clarkson the other day, and she's a
another."
perfect
She
example of
could
that.
literally sing anything.
And T-Pain, the covers album that he just put out, it's like, holy shit, wait a minute. Like, why are you keeping this a secret from all of us? Like,
Yeah.
you need to do this thing. But on the other hand, so there's a band, I can't remember the freaking name of them, but they did that where their album, like every other song sounded so different that it turned people off because they were like, I can't figure out what category to put you in. And everybody hates on Nickelback, but there was an analyst that said the reason everyone hates Nickelback is because they can do ballads, they can do hard rock songs, they can do country songs. So same thing, like people are just like kind of like the karaoke thing, like you were saying, like, oh, you guys are just showing off, like we're like, please, this is just generic, you're just trying to make money, like, you know what I mean? Like I guess people like you have to have a connection, in that way. And if you're not connecting with your audience, like you're not going to have an audience. So it's interesting.
Also, I think people just like look for a reason to be obnoxious and hate people that do things that
Oh,
they would.
sure. I mean, look at all the people hating on Taylor Swift, and it's like, okay, what? Because she's killing it all the time. Like you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I don't know. I so let's talk about so I heard something interesting. We talked a little bit about the Super Bowl performance. We talked about Alicia Keys in particular. Not that we're getting into the shit talking of people, but we are. Um, After her performance, I had heard someone had made a statement that said, "Well, actually, you don't understand how hard it is for artists to sing their own songs live." But I didn't.
That's stupid. Sorry. That sounds stupid to me.
I heard it, but I didn't. There wasn't any like further explanation. Like somebody had just kind
There
of like,
is no further explanation. Liz, it's a dumb statement.
also, yeah. But I'm also thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, so I'm thinking about like the Fergie performance, that one performance that everybody makes fun of Fergie about. I'm like, okay, this is the very first time I've ever heard a statement like this in all these years and all these bad performances that we've seen, from artist to artist. It's like, okay, how do you justify? I don't.
So,
Okay,
so
well, good.
I have a theory on Alicia. I'm actually going to see next Monday. I'm going to see her musical on Broadway, and
Oh, okay.
I'm really going to see it. And I've said this to probably hate watch it because I don't think I'm going to enjoy it. And I like Alicia Keys a lot. I actually
Yeah.
have been a big fan for many years. There are a couple of things that I think are problematic with the way she sings. One, we have to be reminded that she came up in the era of the like legit singing divas that were the people to
Right.
beat, right? And so I put Alicia Keys squarely, go with me here, squarely in the same category as Faith Hill.
Okay. I know what you're saying. I know
These
exactly
are
what you're saying.
these are people that have absolutely just fine voices. They sound nice, they have great songs, they're beautiful, they have a great career, right? But the two of them, I would add Fergie in that mix, just a few years behind, but like in the same mix, where like
Yeah.
they wanted to be perceived as the Celine, Shania, Mariah, like all of those Whitney, all of
Yeah.
those singers, and they tried to release and they tried to write and record songs that were too big for their voices. And
Mm.
so I have said for literal decades at this point that Alicia Keys should record everything that she writes a step lower.
That's
It's
fair.
really,
Yeah.
to me, like there's
No,
nothing
I
wrong with
agree.
her voice.
I
She's
absolutely
got a
agree.
great voice. Everything is pitched a whole step too high for me. And
Yes.
I'm like, you're struggling to get the note and
Yes.
you don't have to.
I hate New York. I hate that song because I for that
But
exact reason. That exact reason.
Faith Hill does the same thing though, and always has.
Mm.
She tried to do that whole like kind of into pseudo pop kind of thing. She tried to do these big numbers, but she was never going to be a Martina McBride or a Leanne
Mm.
Rimes or those that had these giant voices. But they kept giving her songs to do that. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, it, I can talk about this forever. It's like the reason why I keep thinking like if you're Mariah Carey and you've made the literal hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars in your career, largely through publishing, because people forget she wrote all of her stuff.
Hmm.
But if you've made that kind of money, you don't need to prove anything else with your career
Yeah.
as a singer.
Well,
I
so
don't know
let's
why
talk.
she didn't do jazz or like change it up and like lean into her changing voice that isn't what it was supposed to be because it's not supposed to stay the same.
Well, so for me, let's talk about Mariah. For me, I fell off when she did Honey. When Honey came out, when that album came out, I felt she was doing a lot of more breathy shit. She was doing higher pitch shit. And it just got, for me, it was more like just commercial hit after, like she was just cranking out stuff just to
Mhm.
be on the radio. There wasn't a whole lot of thought into it at that point. And that really disappointed me because I was like, wait a minute, like where was the Mariah that first came out? Like where's Vision of Love Mariah? Like you had her range is beautiful, but when you go from breathy into those little high pitched squeals, you just lose so much there. And
But
it's disappointing.
yeah, I just feel like the sort of like arc of her career thus far has been, I mean, she's like phenomenal. She's an icon. So don't let me
Yeah,
pretend like anything else.
right.
Uh, it's sad to see her get on stage and sing live sometimes and do it in an attempt to accomplish what she used to be able to do. I'm like,
Yeah,
she's still plenty talented enough, and
yeah,
she's got plenty of juice left in her voice. I'm just like, why wouldn't you do something different? Why wouldn't you lean
yeah.
into that? You know who I think this unfortunately is going to end up being the same way is Adele.
I would agree
I
with that.
I mean, I've told you before, I saw Adele
Yeah,
first for $12 in the Lower East Side before anybody knew who she was. I
yeah.
recently went to Vegas to go see her show in Vegas. It was outrageously good.
Mm.
But the way she's singing still is
There's
like
no connection anymore.
well, that and it's just like it's really hard on the voice kind of singing that she's doing.
Yeah,
And like you can't do that night after night for years and years on end and
yeah,
then think 10, 15 years into it you're going to be able to sound the way you used to because ultimately you've damaged the instrument. So I'm curious
mm.
to see what
Well,
else
like,
she
yeah.
can do, you
Well,
know?
like and again with Mariah, for me, like she almost went like the route of like Paris Hilton, where like Paris Hilton puts on this voice when she's talking and when she's being recorded, whereas I feel that's what Mariah did. Now she's changed her vocals to, again, to try to be more appealing, or I don't know what it is, but I'm like, girl, like do like be authentic, like do you, like we know you've got I mean everyone knows you have this crazy range, but you should be showing off that crazy range. You shouldn't be pigeonholing yourself to this one area. um yeah, so I don't,
But again,
again.
like it's all like to like here we are talking about singers again. I could talk about singers with you forever. Um,
I will do Fallen for You, by the way. I think that I'm actually I think I hit those notes really well, especially the beginning chords. So I
oh,
will
okay.
do
All right.
Fallen for You, I'll tell you.
Cool.
Yeah, y'all ain't gonna hear it
Um,
on this podcast, so I'll tell you right now.
yet. I'm going to add a
Nah.
yet to everything you say about your singing. Um, no, I just think like this goes back to the like authenticity aspect of all of this, right?
Yeah.
Like, if your goal is to be right, then you've already missed the point.
Mm,
And I think a lot of times when we think about singers who've done what they've done with their careers, it's in an attempt to like continue to be right. They got one thing that everybody was like, oh, that's good. And then the rest of their careers is spent in this pursuit of more of that rather than just like doing whatever it is right now. Years and years ago, this is a kind of a weird, funny story, but I did this semester away program in Martha's Vineyard when I was in the end of my undergrad. And it was like a sort of contemporary music enclave in Martha's Vineyard, and I went for the like 4 months in the fall, and you basically spent the whole semester studying music business and songwriting and performance and that sort of stuff. And we took a couple of field trips to New York. Um, And we'd meet with different industry folk and that kind of thing. And we met this woman who at the time I thought, oh my God, that's so cool. And like, I don't like, we're not friends, but I very much have like crossed paths many times over in the cabaret world in New York, which is kind of weird to me. I've never even told her like, well, we met each other like, 25 years ago or whatever. But Julie Gold is her name. And
Oh.
she famously wrote From a Distance.
Mm-hmm.
And it had been recorded for like multiple different artists by the time. And she told the story that day. I remember this vividly. I'm like 20 years old or whatever. But like she said she got home and she had recently, like her dad asked her something like, what is it that you need? Because she was really struggling financially and like wasn't sure she could make this work out as a songwriter and whatever.
Yeah.
And her dad's like, what do you need? And she says, honestly, what I need is someone to cover my rent for the next 6 months. And he said, I'll take care of it.
Yeah.
And she's like, I was in that period of time where it was like a make or break in my career where like I have to either like something's got to hit or like I can't keep struggling like this. And From a Distance had been recorded several times, released several times, never a hit. And she says she walked into her apartment and to give you time frame, she's like, the light was blinking on her answering machine.
Mm-hmm.
She played it and it was her agent saying Bette Midler wants to record From a Distance. Well, then the Gulf War broke out and all of the imagery with the sort of like, the bombs bursting in air, if you will,
Yeah. Yeah.
song. It just was the right time. She said within a year, she was sitting in Radio City accepting the Song of the Year Grammy for that
It's
song.
wild. Yeah.
And she said, so like, and that was early in her career, obviously a huge, and she's like, like it like changed my life.
Yeah.
But she said, I also view my songs as children. Some of them grow up to be doctors and some of them grow up to be songwriters.
There you
And
go.
From a Distance grew up to be a doctor.
Yeah.
And like, I am proud of that. I am happy with its success. But she said, I've never one time tried to write another From a Distance because I understand that was that. And my goal isn't to let lightning strike twice in the same place. Like, I don't even attempt to do that. That's not my pursuit.
Yeah.
And I think that's the important part of all of this, right? Is that so many singers do one thing that they get some sort of traction with, and then their whole career is about reproducing the thing that they think people
Yes.
want, rather
Yeah.
than just making the music that they want to make. I think of somebody like Yeba. Do you know who I'm talking about?
No.
You're going to. I will introduce you to this. So
Okay.
she is this one of the most talented singers out there. She won 2 Grammys before she even had her own like commercial release. She
Okay.
had a
Wow.
duet with PJ Morton. She had another song but I mean, she like everybody was like, oh my God, she's so amazing. And then she records with I can't remember who the producer, like one of the big producers that like he recorded her last album. So
Hmm.
she had this viral hit at a SoFar event some years back in New York City where they recorded like she's in Brooklyn and like singing in this little warehouse or whatever, right? And she has this viral hit and something like within a week or two of this like exploding on the internet, exploding, and everybody's like, who is this? Her mom dies by suicide.
Oh my goodness.
So like all at the same time that like her career's blowing up, people are paying attention, this like horrific life event is happening to her. And she spends the next like couple of years trying to figure out what that was.
Yeah.
So went back home to be with her dad for a while. Her dad's like a pastor or was a pastor. I don't know if he still is, in Memphis. And she records this album that is truly a fucking masterpiece. It is a masterpiece from start to finish. Mind you, she's already won 2 Grammys. So she's
Right.
very much a darling of the industry. Releases the album. It is, I mean, it's spectacularly good. Nothing. Crickets.
Yeah.
Doesn't change the fact that that album is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
She wasn't trying to make a collection of #1 hits. Now,
Right.
is that to the detriment or benefit of her career? Who knows in the end? But she
Yeah.
also is somebody who she hasn't still like not signed with the record label.
Right.
She's maintained her independence through all of this. She's been wined and dined and offered everything from every major label, and none of it. She's like, she straight up says, I don't care about that shit. Like, I just
Yeah.
want to make the music I feel like I make. And like, I look at somebody like her, and because she's moving so differently, I'm genuinely curious about like, what will she do in the course of her career? Because
Right.
at
Yeah.
some point, everybody's just gonna have to get on board with it because it's too good not to.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, if
Absolutely.
the purpose is to strike gold and get a hit record,
Yeah. Well,
maybe
and that's the problem, right? When you do get a little bit of success, and songwriters have had that. So many songwriters have talked about that, whether they're writing for themselves or for other groups or what have you. They all say that, we come out with this song for whatever reason it strikes a chord with fans and becomes our most popular thing. And either you can take that approach where you stay on, just making
I
music for you, or it becomes an obsession and you try to chase that success again and again, and you're always going to fail, right? Because for whatever reason the lightning struck that one time. Like, yes, you'll have other successful things, whatever. I mean, Beyonce's talked about that, and Jay-Z in his speech has talked about that. Not every single Beyonce album is a hit and is incredible, but she, and I'm not besmirching
but
Beyonce by
okay,
any
so
means,
like
but
all roads,
she gets mad if you don't treat that album like another, a more
yeah.
successful album. She does take it very personally when they don't hit, and it's like, well, it's just how it is sometimes.
Well,
Sometimes you're the flavor of the week, sometimes you're not.
all roads lead back to Her Royal Highness the Queen, Beyonce Giselle Noel Carter. Um, and I was actually just thinking about her before you even said her name because I find it interesting. I think this Cowboy Carter album is an absolute like masterpiece in itself. I think like I've listened to it maybe probably 6 or 7 times all the way through, and every time there's like another discovery of like, oh my God, like it's just so
Yeah,
smartly done. You don't even have to be a fan of hers to objectively listen to that and go, okay, this is really, really cool. It's super
yeah,
complex sonically. But if you think about, I had a conversation with somebody the other day about this. Like, if you think about what her team did with how they teased the album with the singles before it released, go back to Renaissance. Break My Soul is not representative of that album.
sure, yeah, yeah,
Great hit song, but it's also a hit song, and you know it's a hit song when you hear it. But like, it's not representative of the project itself. The 2 singles, Texas Hold'em and 16 Candles, or 16 Carriages rather, also not representative of the Cowboy Carter album. But
absolutely, yeah,
they're standalone songs that people could easily go, okay, that's a radio hit. So
yeah.
even her, in her brilliance, that's far more complex than what other people are kind of allowed to do right now. They still
Well,
lean
again,
into that, like,
people
go to
want to
the
put you
mass
in that
appeal.
category, right? People want to keep you in that category. So only, so it's just, so whenever you try to branch out and you try to do something different, yes, people will love it, but you're going to have those people too that just for whatever reason they just can't handle it because no, I know you for this, and that's your lane, and you need to stay in that lane. It's like, come on, people are allowed to change and experiment and do whatever. I know. So when Maroon 5 first came out, when Harder to Breathe came out, I ran for that album because I thought I was going to get more
So
of the
good.
same.
I forgot about them actually till you said
But
that.
then
Oh, so good.
the rest of that album is anything like that first release that came out, to the point where I actually was like, I stopped listening to them for a little while. I was again, aging myself. I was in a record store and someone was debating between their album and somebody else's album. And I said, if you think that whole album is going to be like Harder to Breathe, you're sadly mistaken. I'm going to tell you that right now. And I actually discouraged them from buying the album. But since then, but again, but Maroon 5, same thing. I feel like they've done rock stuff, they're doing ballad stuff, they've done more pop stuff. And now that I know them and I've gotten used to that sound, I'm okay with it. And I love all of their albums. But at the time, it was the same thing. You release this one thing, you're promoting it under this one thing. And then I hear and none of the rest of the album sounds like that. And I just couldn't handle it at the time. Like
it makes me wonder about the like as genuinely innovative and edgy as Beyonce has been with the last maybe like 7-8 years of what she's done.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, my personal assessment is that like they release the songs that they know everyone will listen to.
Right. Right.
And I wonder what the real goal there is, because I'm kind of like, no, like give us the good shit up front. But like it's all like, and I like those songs, but like to me, like musically, those songs pale in comparison to many other tracks on that album.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Have you been listening to it?
So the way I've been approaching things lately is I add it. So I listen not through Amazon Music. So I just add full albums and I put everything on shuffle. And they just come to me organically. So I've heard probably half of the songs on the album, but I haven't listened to it in a whole.
I'll tell you,
I like to be surprised. That's what it is. I like to be surprised.
You should definitely, when you're ready to do it, you should definitely sit down and just listen to it through, because I think what she's done with this album and Renaissance too is the beauty is in the project itself. I think now the difference between her, like another album that I love like that is Frank Ocean's Blonde album. And I'm not even a Frank Ocean fan. And that's the weird thing, is that like, I think I've listened to it dozens and dozens of times front to back. But for me, Frank Ocean, I will never buy a ticket to his concert. I have no interest in seeing him live because it lives in an album in my head and in my ear. And I want it just to stay there. Beyonce is different in that she is making these albums that absolutely live as like recordings, like albums, but then somehow figures out how to translate it to a live performance that's also outrageous, different, but outrageously good.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because you brought up Frank Ocean, I think, in the last episode. Frank Ocean is one of those artists. I talk about Frank
Ocean all the time.
What's funny is I could not tell you one of his songs, yet everyone knows who Frank Ocean is. So it's really interesting to me that so again, this kind of goes back to talking about success, right? And again, I said this with Elena as well. So it's like, so Frank Ocean, maybe not commercially successful in the sense that he's on the radio all the time, but successful in that every single person knows who he is. No, go ahead.
He made it's a fascinating story, because I'm always interested in like the business behind this too, and how people navigate that stuff. He made his money, and like, I think it was something like $25 million or something that he made through an exclusive release to Apple Music.
Okay.
And so it was like an independent project. It's like do you remember that song some years back that, I think that I found myself a cheerleader.
Oh, yep.
It's such a catchy song. And I saw an interview with that guy who wrote that song, and he recorded that song something like 10, 12 years before it became a hit.
Yeah.
But he wrote it about his girlfriend, his wife, whomever, because he had been dropped by a record label, and they said that song was never going to be anything. And he was kind of like, just watch. Watch. Yeah.
I love stories like that. And there are so many out there like that.
And here's the great thing is that when it hit, he was an independent artist.
Yeah.
All that money's his. He's not giving up. Like, he's not, so some of these people together. Elliot Yamin. Oh my God. Why am I remembering this name? I haven't thought about him in forever. Do you remember him from American Idol?
No, I will say I never watched American Idol. I watched the first season. That was it. I've never really paid attention.
So let me tell you, let me look this up. Wait for You. I think it's called Wait for You.
Okay.
It was a big radio hit. Um, and when it all was said and done, he made a fucking fortune on this one hit single because nobody wanted to give him a chance. Nobody.
Yeah.
When he did it, he owned everything
Yeah.
and had a huge hit. And he's
Yeah.
over here making far more money than people that have seemingly bigger careers, right? So, like,
Yeah.
just so many ways to go about it.
This is for another conversation, and maybe I'll have you back for it, but I'm so fascinated by all of that stuff. Like, and when you talk about like fuck around and find out, or just, just do it, just pursue your dreams, and who gives a shit. Like, I want to say that so just because so many people get hung up in like the focus is get a record deal, get a record deal, get a record deal, get a record deal. But it's like you have to consider everything that comes with that. So like me not knowing shit all about the business, I'm not a part of the business. I've never touched the business, but like for me, seeing what's gone on with people like Taylor Swift, with Frank Ocean, like, for me, like if anyone came to me and was like, we want to give you a record deal, I would say, cool, I have 100% creative control and I own all of my shit, like kind of like the Taylor
To
Swift
which they
deal,
would reply,
which
then
I
you're
would
not
say,
doing with
go fuck
us.
yourself. Right. Exactly. So I think people get scared off by that, but at the same time, like if you stick to your guns and you pursue and you just keep working and you keep putting your shit out there, and again, thankfully there's the internet now, so you can do these things without the backing of big conglomerates. Um, it could still work. I mean, everything's a crapshoot, right? Like we said, it's all about the flavor of the week. It's all about the tone at the time. It's all about what people are receptive to. So for me, like again, talking about success, like if you're still booking shows, if people still want to listen to you, if you're still writing, if you're still putting shit out there, like that is success in itself. Like don't, but we always try to monetize, right? Like that's where we think success is at the amount of your check and how quickly you can pay off your bills and get a new house and take care of your family and all that kind of
You
shit.
can work that angle, right? You can work that angle from
Yeah.
a business perspective, and it's entirely valid because you're trying to sell a product at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think people quickly run out of juice when they work that angle as the
Yeah.
goal, right? Like
Yeah.
you may have a big hit, you may even have two,
Yeah. But
but like
again, there's
at some
so
point,
much more that comes with it that,
oh my God, and we have such artistic ADD in our culture to start with, where like
yeah,
I mean, like myself included, like I will quickly move on to something else without
sure.
thinking about the person that made it or whatever. So like you've got to like just do things that feel right to you, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But with that, we will wrap up here. Thank you so much for joining us again. Again, my friend Jerry, who is a vocal coach, he is a music teacher. He's very talented. How many instruments do you play? Let's start with that. I know you play
Oh, I
piano.
people always ask that, and I feel so inadequate. I really just play piano and sing. Like I can dabble in some other things, but nothing I would ever do in front of you.
Well, listen, I can relate to that. So, well, again, thank you so much. This was Try Not to Curse. I am Elizabeth Marvel, and Jerry, we will catch you next time, hopefully.
Have a beautiful, beautiful day.